All right, welcome to Talking in Stations. This is Matterall. I'm going to do a reading of this new dev blog. It's called From Extraction to Production. Actually, I'm not going to read. I'm going to let the computer read so I don't get tired. Then we're going to move into an explainer phase with a real amazing industrialist, Kenneth Feld, who also happens to be very involved in some of these changes as a player through the CSM, the Council of Stellar Management. And that will allow us to get as close to the thinking behind this as we can. And after we have some tips for you guys, we'll save those towards the end, so you stick around. We'll actually open it up to a discussion of a lot of heavy-duty players inside of Talking in Stations. If you want to join that group, you can in our public channel on Talking in Stations Discord. We will give you that information on how to get there through the chat channel in just a minute. But first, let's go over some of what's in here by reading it with the help of a computer. Here we go.
From Extraction to Production, published by EVE Online, on November 12, 2021.
In July, it was mentioned that the shortage phase was ending, and that in Q4 EVE Online would be fully moving onto the redistribution phase, followed by dynamic distribution later in 2022. Specifically, the following was mentioned. Introduction of moon ore and gas compression to better facilitate the newly decoupled industry changes. A balance pass for all mining ships. Additional specialized holds for gas and ice. As part of the new Dawn update, the foundations that have been built will be expanded upon and there will be full transition into the redistribution phase with a comprehensive update to mining and a balance pass to industry, including the above points and more. The goal is to provide players with more opportunity for resource gathering, better agency for efficient production, and to facilitate the transportation of materials. This will also add clearer progression for the mining path, as well as adding value for those who choose to specialize in the career. This update introduces more raw materials into New Eden, compression for gas, ice and moon ore, updates to mining and mining crystals, and a rebalancing of the Orca and Rorkel as well as other mining ships. While the Orca and Rorkel will no longer be the best solo mining platforms, they are receiving a buff to their command bonuses and added new roles. All the details here and in the support document are a work in progress and subject to change before release on Tranquility. This is a major update and getting your feedback is imperative. As of today, the discussed changes are available on the Singularity test server, so we encourage all capsuleers to dive in, explore the changes, and join the discussion in the official forum thread. Highlights include doubling resource quantity of ore in asteroids belts. All umber, kernite, and crocite quantities are doubled in SOV anomalies. Ice belts, on top of the previous 200% increase. Macosaricin, cytosaricin, fullerene. Double the extraction rate from all moons. Reduced pi materials required for certain subcapital and capital components having water for core temperature regulators, used in battleship and capital construction. Significant reduction in P4 materials used in capital component production. Adding new specialized gas and ice holds to T1 industrials, expedition frigates, T1 barges, T2 exhumers. Increasing the resistance profiles of all exhumers. Increase the base HP of, and adding mid-slot 2, coveter and retriever. Adding new gas harvesters for all mining barges and exhumers. Introducing a new compact industrial core for the Orca. Adding compression for Macosaricin and cytosaricin fullerene moon ore. Condensing all mining crystals into the following categories: common, uncommon, rare, superior, abyssal, mercoxite. Introducing mining waste. Adding new variants for each mining crystal: standard yield, higher yield, high waste, less reliable, lower yield, very high waste, very unreliable. Disclaimer: all names for new skills and modules are placeholders and will be updated before going live on Tranquility. Mining waste and resources. This update will see a doubling of resources available across New Eden. This includes all ore quantities are doubled in asteroid belts. All ore quantities are doubled in all resource anomalies. All ice quantities are doubled, in addition to the previous 200% increase. All umber, kernite, and crocite quantities are doubled in SOV anomalies, whilst mercoxite quantities are increased by 20%, in addition to the previous 200% increase. All Macosaricin quantities are doubled, whilst spawn chance of extra sites that was added earlier this year has been reduced. All cytosaricin quantities are doubled. All fullerene quantities are doubled. Extraction rate is doubled from moons. Moon extractions will take the same time as before, but will yield 2x the quantity of ore when fractured. Extractions which are in progress, and not yet fractured, at deployment time will receive the 2x yield when they fracture. Removal of all basic materials from R4 moon ore, finalizing the plan of removing basic minerals from moons. In addition to the doubling of resources, a new mining waste mechanic will be introduced. Mining waste will create a greater benefit to increasing mining skills and using more advanced modules that lower the rate of waste. This also introduces new gameplay options, such as high waste mining of opponents' resources via updated mining crystals that increase harvesting at the cost of increased waste. Mining waste can be tracked in the mining ledger. To accomplish this, a few things are happening. Introduction of mining waste probability, which is a chance per cycle for resources to be turned into space dust, in addition to what is going to the character's inventory. Introduction of a mining waste multiplier, a multiplier on the mining amount that determines the actual amount being wasted. To put things into context, let's look at the example below. As mentioned earlier, different modules will have different attributes. The below table, apart from some exceptions, mainly named modules, demonstrates the expected waste-related attributes for each category. Given that a significant portion of mining is done using T2 modules, this is an overall net boost to global resource availability. Compression. Let's dive into the details of how compression is going to change. Gone are the days of lossless compression. From now on, when you compress resources, some amount will be lost during the process. Compression and stations will have a different efficiency depending on the type of resource that is being compressed, except moon compression will not be available. Compression will still be instantaneous but will be less efficient than in-space compression. Compression efficiency is as follows. Ore, 90% gas 90% ice 79%. Rorkel, Orca and Porpoise will be able to do compression in space but will require specialized modules for it. However, only the Rorkel can compress moon ore in space. Each compression module will be able to compress only a certain group of resources as defined by its tier. Gas compression modules for all gas types, Mako, Cyto, fullerenes, are being introduced. Moon ore compression modules for all moon ore types are being introduced. Moon ore compression will be unique to the Rorkel and will be only available out in space. Compressed types will now have the same portion size as their uncompressed counterparts. You can calculate the compression ratio by the difference of volume between the two types. Existing compressed types of quantities will be compensated due to this change, such that no loss occurs. New modules. The following compression modules are being introduced. For the Rorkel. Mobile ore compression modules. Mobile moon ore compression modules, mobile gas compression modules, mobile ice compression modules. For the Orca and Porpoise, compact mobile ore compression modules, compact mobile gas compression modules, compact mobile ice compression modules. The Rorkel modules have a higher duration per cycle, but they are more efficient, fewer resources are lost during compression. Compact modules have reduced duration, but they are less efficient. Each compression module can support one of the resource tiers. For example, the mobile abyssal ore compression unit can only compress abyssal ore types. The mobile rare ice compression unit can only compress rare ice types, etc. The same paradigm exists between Tech I versus Tech 2 modules. Tech I modules are faster but less efficient than Tech 2 modules. You can find the full list of module stats here. How does it work? When you have a compression module fitted, you can load the appropriate resources as ammo in the module and activate it. The input quantity of the uncompressed type will be consumed and the output quantity of the compressed type will be delivered to the main inventory of your ship. To load the resource, you right-click on the compression module. Upon doing so, at the top of the menu you will see all suitable resources for this module that exist in your main inventory. Resources can only be loaded from the ship's main inventory. The blueprints for the new modules will be released before the end of November so that an inventory can exist before the actual compression changes happen.
All right, we're about to get into new skills. Just want to take a break here and let you know when the devlog is referring to here. I think it's referred to it twice. That is a spreadsheet that we're going to look at with Kenneth that really gives the details on what the actual changes are. So we'll get to that too. Okay, here's new skills.
New skills. To accommodate for the new modules, the following skills are being introduced. Mobile asteroid ore compression. Allows the use of T1 mobile ore compression modules. Mobile asteroid ore compression specialization. Allows the use of T2 mobile ore compression modules. Mobile asteroid ore compression optimization. Reduces the cycle duration of ore compression modules. Mobile moon ore compression allows the use of T1 mobile moon ore compression modules. Mobile moon ore compression specialization allows the use of T2 mobile moon ore compression modules. Mobile moon ore compression optimization reduces the cycle duration of moon ore compression modules. Mobile gas and ice compression allows the use of T1 gas and ice compression modules. Mobile gas and ice compression specialization allows the use of T2 gas and ice compression modules. Mobile gas and ice compression optimization reduces the cycle duration of gas and ice compression modules. All new skills will be released by the end of November.
All right, moving into industrial core. I'm breaking it up so that people listening know that we're moving different sections. So here's industrial cores, and these were particular to the Rorkel, and this is a big change here.
New skills. To accommodate for the new modules, the following skills are
My bad.
Port of gas and moon ore. Details can be found here. As can be seen, and has been discussed before, the role of the Rorkel and Orca will be changing in New Eden. It is becoming less feasible to solo mine in them since the drone mining yield for both the Orca and Rorkel is being reduced. It will nonetheless play a vital role in space as mentioned before, in being a support mining ship, both for boosting fleets and compressing. This will mean that Rorkel proliferation in New Eden will be impacted, which will mean more from everyone that is not in a Rorkel, unless in the scenarios where mining groups optimize together with a balance between good mining ships and good mining support ships. Mining crystals. With the introduction of ore tiers, single ore mining crystals are being replaced with tiered versions. This means that each crystal will now support all ores in its tier. For example, the common ore mining crystal gives bonuses to all common ores, feldspar, scordite, pyroxeres, and plagioclase. At the same time, 3 different types of mining crystal will be available for each tier, as mentioned before. Type A, standard yield. Type B, higher yield, high waste, less reliable. Type C, lower yield, very high waste, very unreliable. All existing crystals will be migrated to their Type A counterparts depending on the tier to which they belong. For further information click here. New skills. With the introduction of the ore tiers, reprocessing skills are also receiving an update. The single ore reprocessing skills will be replaced by a single reprocessing skill per ore tier. For example, feldspar, scordite, pyroxeres, and plagioclase processing skills are replaced by the common ore processing skill. The details can be found in the supporting document, but in short, players will be reimbursed the skill points and the ISK cost for the skill books, and should they decide to train all the new skills, they will be left with about 1.8 million unallocated skill points after completing training for the new ones. In addition, the deep core mining skill is being updated, its probability of damage reduction bonus per level changes from 20% to 10%. Modules, drones and rigs. There is also a new line of gas harvesting modules that will be unique to mining barge and exhumer ship types. The existing gas harvester modules will be renamed to gas scoops and the harvester keyword will be used for barge/exhumer equipment. Similarly in this case, the details of this update are available here. Ships. Mining and industrial ships are receiving a balance update which will create more clarity between the roles/specialization of the different ships. An important component of this balance pass is the update to specialized resource holds, which can be boiled down to a few key adjustments. Specialized resource holds. Specialized resource holds are being updated. Specialized ore holds will support asteroid and moon ore, including compressed ore. Specialized gas holds will support all gases, including compressed gases, mako, cyto, fullerenes. Specialized ice holds will support all ice, including compressed ice. Changes to ships with specialized holds can be found here, but some highlights include: Hoarder gets a 30k gas hold and relevant bonus. Krios gets a 30k ice hold and relevant bonus. Prime gets a 10k ice hold and 10k gas hold. For a comprehensive look at all changes, peruse the supporting document. Ship Industry Update, 6-month follow-up. October marked 6 months from the ship industry mega update, and as such, it is a good time to review these changes. To address some player concerns, we will be making the following changes. Please note that types in the blueprints that are not listed remain unaffected and values in parentheses indicate previous values. Please also note that there will another review of ship blueprints 6 months after this update goes live. The highlights: core temperature regulator, water changes from 2500 to 1250. Capital core temperature regulator, integrity response drones changed from 150 to 100, self-harmonizing power core changed from 150 to 100. Enhanced Neuralink protection cell, genetic safeguard filter changes from 200 to 100. Conclusion: almost 2 years ago the journey of shoring up EVE's ecosystem started. This was done to ensure that EVE is set up for a thriving third decade, with the goal that EVE will eventually outlive us all. EVE's ecosystem was not in a healthy state, and the 2-year shortage phase has understandably been a challenging road. It has meant tighter belts, and a complete shake-up of the institutional knowledge that EVE players have utilized when it comes to earning ISK and resources. Now, as a part of the New Dawn update, we are expanding on the foundations we have built and transitioning fully into the redistribution phase, with a large update that includes doubling of resources, and also introducing mining waste, a balance pass for all mining ships, moon ore and gas compression, and more. In the next couple of weeks, we will publish a winter status update, akin to the July status update that was released earlier this year, which will give you better insight into everything going on in EVE. There's a lot to take in, as this is one of the biggest updates to industry and mining in EVE's almost 19-year history. It is on the test server for a reason. It is pivotal to get players' eyes on it. As with anything this big, there are bound to be things that need a re-review, so as mentioned before, we encourage all capsuleers to dive in, explore the changes and join the discussion in our official forum thread. Remember, whenever anything big like this happens in EVE, new opportunities arise for those willing to jump in, experiment and become experts.
From extract.
All right, there you have it. That is a reading by my awesome computer of the new development blog changes to production and extraction, and basically industry. This is a follow-up to the massive production changes that were introduced, I think 6 months ago, as it said. And the highlights here are the introduction to ore and gas compression, which we knew was coming, but here it is. We have balance passes for ships, including the Rorkel and the Orca, which we knew were coming, and here they are. And you have additional specialized holds for gas, and I think skill changes are a big deal here, but they're not listed. We didn't know the skill changes were coming. That's a big change. So we're going to now talk to our in-house expert and one of the guys that put a lot of time into this, and that is Kenneth Feld. Let me grab him here in a second. On the CSM. Hey, Kenneth. Hi. Welcome. Let me grab, so I'm going to grab this spreadsheet that we're going to be looking at, and I'll have that ready. And you can turn on your camera, or you can go off. Oh, there you are. All right. I will switch to second while I switch cameras so you can see me as well.
We're not on air, right?
Yeah, we're on. Why not? This is backstage. This is what it's like.
Oh, okay. I was just going to ask you if you saw the new M1 MacBook Pros. Those things look killer.
Oh my God, they're monsters. Yeah, those are amazing. I am on an M1 actually, but I'm on the if I can get this right. I'm on a little Mac Mini, and so I'm really grateful to CCP for putting some time into the Mac client, because now I can actually play, because it's M1 native. So I couldn't play up until a few weeks ago. So I'm back in EVE Online. Thank you. Thank you for making that client. Right. Yeah, those are monster machines, and they're just unbelievable. They're too powerful, really, for people. But if you can get your hands on one, they're also kind of expensive. We're talking about the Apple M1 Mac Pros, actually, with the M1 Max chip and the Pro chip and stuff. Okay, but people are here to listen to you break this down for us, because it's a big deal. Why don't you tell us your big takeaways and break down this whole blog for us?
Well, I think most people realized Rorkel got hit with the Nerf bat. Um, the Tech One Industrial Core got hit with the ginormous Babe Ruth baseball bat. The Tech Two and got hit with a pitcher's bat. Didn't hurt nearly as much, but those mining yields are definitely down. The subcaps pretty much got a boost across the board. And for, I think, the first time since early 2010s, somewhere around there, the barges all have mining yield bonuses now. So they traded some duration bonuses for yield bonuses because they were getting into diminishing returns on speed, not diminishing returns like you think of if you have multiple modules fitted, but diminishing returns for if you take 10 seconds off of a speed and the speed's already at 48 seconds and you go down to 38 seconds or something like that, or 41 to 38 seconds, it doesn't feel like that much of a speed boost. Whereas if you were at 120 seconds and got that same 10%, you would take 12 seconds off. So they took away some of the duration bonuses and added the yield bonuses to just give you a straight yield boost.
Yeah.
And then all that gets magnified by your skills, implant, that kind of stuff. So for the first time in a while, we've had that on the subcaps. The prospect, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know that much about the mining frigates, but I know that they did have gas type bonuses and they got removed. I am sad about that, but there's not much I can really do.
Well, and these are the
there you
frigates
go.
that are, I assume CCP means them for beginning players to taste what mining is like, and that's why the changes are in that vein, rather than specializing them in gas scooping.
Right. That's probably a decent speculation. I like them with the porpoise for people to be able to slip into a wormhole, mine some gas, and slip right out type thing. They were
Yeah.
perfect ships for that. But I don't know if that just didn't happen a lot. I don't have access to that data. I don't know how much actually got mined by them. And the fact that mining barges now get gas harvesters that are essentially like strip miners may have negated some of the reasoning for that.
All right. So
We're just going to leave that at that.
all right. So the frigates are no longer these little little ships that you could deploy into dangerous areas to get gas, which was lucrative. They're no longer going to fit that role.
Correct.
Okay. Now they're basically beginner miner ships.
Yeah, essentially, it's I don't know if you get that alpha skill or not, but yeah, you'll be able to get into a mining frigate in a few days and actually contribute to a mining op with very little problem.
All right. So let's go through some of these sections. Feel free to steer if you want to hit certain things, but let's go through the highlights here. Or in, I guess, ore is doubling. That's like the first big announcement, right?
Correct. Yeah, if it's basically ore in the game, with the exception of there's one little section in an anomaly where only like 3 things got doubled. But other than that one little caveat, if it's a rock, a crystal, meaning ice, or a gas or something, there's going to be on patch day 2 times as much of it as there is right now.
Now, does that, this may be a silly question, but does that mean the rocks are bigger in space? Does it matter? It doesn't matter technically.
It does matter because a Rorkel has, I liken this to paper DPS. If you're talking about PvP, you have paper DPS and then you have real DPS. On paper, a Phoenix is a freaking monster. In real life, it couldn't hit the broadside of a barn from 50 feet away, right? So if you look at it like that, a Rorkel has paper mining yield and then it has real life mining yield because the excavators are so slow. that your yield is based on 100% speed on mining, right? There's no travel time for the drones, that kind of stuff. So when you take that into account, that factors in, and it kind of skews what you see on paper versus what you actually get.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the thing I think we're going to have to wrestle with too, is that a lot of this, okay, what I'm sensing is that there's a lot more waste. That you get more of something, but you also get more waste opportunities. So you're never going to meet your full potential. And that waste is in not only in compressing something, but also in mining itself. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay, well, first of all, the waste that you're talking about when mining does not affect what you receive. So if you mine today and you got, there was an asteroid that had 5,000 of something, and you were mining, and you were supposed to mine 300 of that, and 300 ended up in your cargo hold. After the patch, minus the differences in bonuses and stuff, if you pull off that rock and you're supposed to get 500 now, 500 will still end up in your hole. But if you have 100% wastage, now 500 of that rock will also go poof. So if you started with 5,000 and you started mining it and you pulled in 500 and 500 went in your cargo hold, 500 goes poof. If you scan that rock again, now the rock will have 4,000 on it, because 500 went poof, 500 went into your ore hold, and that's how wastage will work. The only time that it's really going to get goofy is if you're on the last, say you're on the rock and there's 750 left and you're supposed to mine 500. When you mine that last little bit, wastage acts first.
Oh.
So if there's 750 left, 500 will go poof and 250 will end up in your cargo hold. Likewise, if there's only 450 left, then the rock will go poof and 0 will end up in your hold, because all of that 500, but there's really only 475 there, will all go poof.
Does that mean, does that make any kind of behavioral change for the last cycle on a rock? Like you're about to get the last piece of the rock. It's only got, 30 pieces in it, but you still have to do the full cycle in order to destroy the rock.
You can stop the cycle part way, and it will prorate what you get and the wastage. So that's right. So if you get 500 for a hole, say you have 475 left, and you stop the cycle halfway, then you would say 250 goes to wastage and I get 250. In this case, if you got it perfect right in the middle, then 250 would go to wastage and 225 would end up in your hold, and you basically split what's left of the rock.
All right. So Revstone has the question. So they double it and then they're halving it. Why does that make any sense? It looks like that's where they're getting confused.
Okay, so that's true for certain modules. But if you look at the Tech 2 strip miners and the alpha crystals, your wastage is only 34%. So now you end up with a serious net positive for mining.
Okay.
And even if you account for the minus 2 or 3% from compression, you're still significantly ahead of the game from where we are today.
Right. So it seems like you can mitigate some of your waste, some of your losses, probably some of your compression too, through skills and equipment.
Correct. And the ore strip miners, which are faction, have 0 wastage. So they'll be, if you used ore strip miners, you could get 200% more than what you have today.
All right, cool. And it seems, okay, so the industrial changes, just to put this in perspective, seem to expand the field, but make some people's ability to run that field faster than others. So it made more decision-making ability for players to get better at industry, that is building and stuff. And this seems to be the same philosophy of stretching out how much ore there is and allowing players to specialize and get really good at getting it.
To a certain degree, yes. But as most people figured out in the industry change, it was all about time, right? before it took X number of hours to mine your Titan. Well, after the change, that X number of hours is significantly more than previously. This is kind of the same thing in that they're doubling the amount of ore and they're raising the amount of ore that you can mine with certain ships, lowered it with a couple, which seem to be driving a lot of the comments, but that's beside the point. They are increasing it with some, but they increased wastage. So you can mine more, but a little bit more goes away. Overall, it's a net positive. However, the time factor comes in where it takes a little bit longer. So there's going to be more available, but it's going to take you a little bit longer to collect it.
All right, got it. So there's still the man-hour tax, we call it, where you physically have to be sitting, the person, the actual human, has to be sitting at the chair playing the game to do it.
Correct.
Okay. Which also incidentally ties into the desire to reduce AFK gameplay and create more active gameplay. All right, let's go into those ship changes that you just talked about. Here's a spreadsheet that the dev blog refers to. Actually, do you have...
I just want to make one comment on it, just so people know. In the ship changes, I have not confirmed this, but I believe there is a error in the sheet in that the row that says mining frigate skill per level should be one column to the left. Because right now, the Venture, or no, what is it? Yeah, the Venture gets no boost, and it looks like the Coveter gets a massive boost that's designated for the Endurance. So I think that is off by one, that row is off by one column. I'm trying to get clarification to that right now, but I think that's what happened.
Can you share your screen so we can follow along what you're seeing instead? That'll be...
No, because that's on my iPad. I'm in Spain. I'm only on my laptop. I only have one little bitty screen. And yeah, you're just lucky I'm here.
I am lucky you're here. We catch you in airports. We catch you going through security in airports, and you still give us the interview, which is awesome. All right.
And not only that, I have the CSM Slack up too, so I definitely couldn't share my screen.
Oh, no, I meant the window, but I get what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, so I'll show you, and then you tell me what you want to talk about, and I'll go to it as best I can. But you want to review the ship changes? Those seem to be a big deal, right?
Right. I talked about it a little bit before, that the whole diminishing returns, once you get down to small numbers, the old bonuses were all duration based. And for the first time, we have yield based bonuses. I will tell you this. How do I say this? In a change this big, there's liable to be some last minute changes that affect a few things here and there. So I don't know that this is 100% final right now. I think there's still room for some movement there. There's definitely the one thing that the CSM in general, I'm not going to say every single person, but the CSM in general is kind of worried about is ganking. You start putting more people in all these mining ships. That's the reason AFK Orca mining in HiSec was so good, because you had very little to worry about with being ganked, and you could leave it there and let it mine for how many ever hours until your ore hold fell up. So if you put a new player in a Coveter or a Retriever, and they don't really know how to fit a tank yet, or they have a little bit of tank, but 2 or 3 guys come along in a Thrasher, you can blow that thing up pretty easy. I would like to see them a little more to where, not if you're dumb and just don't put a tank on there and just go out, yeah, you deserve to get blown up. But if you take the time to put a little bit of tank on there, you're active at the keyboard, and you can maybe move a little bit to mitigate some of the damage, that maybe ganking you isn't a slam dunk or isn't just stupid easy, right?
A certainty. Like, it's
right,
not a certainty.
Yes. Well, you can make it a certainty. I mean, if you bring 10 tornadoes, you're going to blow up, but at that point you've spent 5 times as much blowing up, what you're blowing up. So of course it should go, right? It just want to make it to where the little harasser with 1 or 2 ships, goes and seeks a better target type thing. Someone who's maybe not as prepared or something like that. And so those discussions are kind of still going on. And yeah, we're gonna leave that at
So,
that.
so
But
players, hold on. If you want to influence that, talk to your CSM representatives and let them know. Like, how easy should a mining ship be able to be ganked in high sec? Talk to your CSM and let them weigh in, because you know people who like ganking are going to weigh in. So take the time to do that if that's what you want. Oh, one other thing, I want to point out something that you said earlier, and that is this is the first time we've seen a mining bonus on a mining ship. Usually you see a speed bonus, which is the cycling of the lasers that mine. So it is, you can mine faster normally, but you weren't mining more. Has that changed? You can actually mine more?
well, you were mining more per time,
Mhm.
but you weren't mining more in one chunk. So now you'll be getting a bigger chunk at one time. It'll just take a slight amount of time longer to get that chunk.
Got it. Okay. So what ships do you want to talk about?
That's up to you. You're driving the boat.
All right. Let's talk about
we've touched on most of them.
All right, let's talk about the relationship between the Hulk and the Rorkel, or the industrial command ships that give out or did give out the bonuses. I think they still do. And the ships that are supposed to be doing the mine, or the exhumers, the ones that are doing the mining, the exhumers that are supposed to be out there actually doing it. Because there was a seismic shift in, I don't know, 2015 when the Rorkel took over the mining arena as the best miner out there, the best solo miner out there, with use of drones. That wasn't the case a long time ago. You had ships that were mining, and you had industrial command ships that were boosting those miners and giving them benefits. So is there a change in that balance?
Oh yeah, definitely. The Hulk will definitely outmine a Rorqual now. No questions. And now there's a couple caveats there. It has to have Rorqual boosts. So say you're mining and you have one Rorqual and a couple Hulks. Each Hulk would be the equivalent of a Rorqual mining, or a little bit better than that. But they're going to have a roughly 60-kilometer range on those lasers. So you have a 60-kilometer circle around that Hulk, and it can hoover anything in that circle. Whereas if you had a Rorqual and you cozy up next to a rock and you mine that rock with your excavators, you're going to have to come out of your Indy core, warp off, warp back to the next rock, or slow boat over to your next rock and start mining that, because the transit time on your excavators is so excruciatingly slow that your yield goes down. So whereas the Hulk won't have to move anywhere, and it gets 120-kilometer sphere, 60-kilometer radius in all directions around the ship, and can hoover anything in that radius.
Nice. That's we were just talking about this earlier when the Rorkel was made not only a command ship but the best miner. It was doing 5.5 times or so what a Hulk could do, which was the best and fastest mining exhumer, and that was a mind-blowing experience, which led to the last 4 years really that the Rorkel was a preeminent miner.
But that only lasted about a couple weeks, right? Before they figured out that the rigs piled onto all that.
Yeah.
Once that mistake was fixed, then a Rorqual was only about 3.5 Hulks.
Right. It came down, but I think through successive changes, so it took them a while to bang it back into shape. Still, it was impressive, and the value of the Rorqual is a lot more. So if you risked it, you were getting a lot more mining, but you were also risking a lot more. So that's back to where it used to be, where the Hulk is the miner, and it's even better if you have a Rorqual supporting it. Sounds like.
Correct.
So what's up with the Rorqual? What now? They're the compressing ships, it looks like.
Correct. The boosts have been buffed a little bit. They're the 5% still the same, but the Indy core went up from, I think, 36 to 40% strength bonus on the boost. In addition, let me look at this. Oh, my iPad went off. Anyway, but in addition to that, it got a range boost. So now I think, if my math is right, you're going to be right around 185, 190 kilometer radius around the Rorqual. So any Hulk in that range will get full boost.
That's okay. I see. So the range of the boost is what you're talking about, and
Correct.
and they're boosting the range on the Hulk. Is that
No,
okay?
well, yeah. So the range I'm talking about there is the range of the mining burst and shield bursts from the Rorkel, which then once you have that boost on your Hulk or Retriever or Mackinac or whatever, then you get the lower cycle time, the increased range on your lasers, that kind of stuff. It's
Okay.
it's just like on your ship when you get the info links and you can point someone farther away, that kind of stuff.
All right. So it sounds like, and we've covered a few of these. One is that the smaller ships, the little frigate miners, are basically introduction to mining ships. They're not gas specialists. And the Hulk, now the Exhumers basically are becoming the mining ships that you want to use. And the industrial command ships like the Orca, which is the smaller version of a Rorkel, those ships are now back to boosting, and that's boosting and crunching rocks after.
Yeah, they can now compress.
Yeah. That's their big
Now,
change.
they cannot compress moon ore. Only the Rorqual can compress moon ore. The Orca and Porpoise can only do ice and gas and mineral.
All right. And is there anything else in these ships that we should be looking at? The tank is a big deal. I know that people are talking about that right now. I'm glad to know it's still being debated. How much should they be able to survive while they mine? Because that's a big thing, right?
Correct. Yeah,
well, it's a big thing for AFK mining, I guess. Actually, it's a big thing if you're just sitting there and you get blown up and there's nothing you can do about it. That doesn't feel great. That's terrible gameplay.
Exactly. Yeah, that's not good at all. Let me look at these hull bonuses real quick.
Yeah, if you're not at the keys and you get blown up, well, there's a case that can be made like, you're not really at the game, you're not really playing the game. But if you're sitting there and there's nothing you can do, that just doesn't feel great.
Right. Yeah. So a couple of the changes on the Rorqual hulls. It used to be a 10% bonus to drone damage, hit EHP, and mining yield. That's been replaced by a 15% bonus to drone damage. So the drones from a Rorqual are going to be a lot more dangerous than they were before. And the 5% mining foreman burst area of effect range. So what they had before was like 149 kilometers, and that's going to be boosted by 25%. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the only real big change there.
Big question. What do you think is going to happen in nullsec between all these ships and these changes?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, that's not up for me to decide, right? Players are going to do what players are going to do. I would imagine that there's some people that are going to still mine in their Rorqual and not care. Some people like me who mined, back when the Rorqual was just a boosting ship. All my guys have full subcap skills. So if I ever went mining, I mined this past weekend more as a social thing. I don't mine for ISK or for whatever. It's just strictly a social endeavor. But yeah, I'll definitely be back in Hulks. One other thing about the Hulk versus the Mackinac versus the Skiff, the Mackinac is your AFK type ship because you can get 5 or 6 cycles. I haven't done the actual math on the new holds and stuff, but you can get quite a few cycles before you actually have to do something. The Hulk, you can get 2 cycles, which is ostensibly about 80 seconds or so, and then you start running out of hold real quick, and your lasers turn off. So if you got a bio break, you got like 80 seconds, and you better be back there ready to do something. Especially if you got 4 or 5 of them going, that's a lot of clicking for this old man. So, but a Mackinac, you get a good 4 minutes to run for a bio break. So that's something there. I mean, it's minor and we're kind of giggling about it, but that does make a difference and will affect your yield.
All right. Somebody asks here, Higher Brand asks, harvesting coming to wormholes in a big way, question mark?
What do you mean by heart? I don't understand.
I think he's saying what kind of effects will the ship changes and these overall changes have in other areas, not just null security space or low security space, but like wormhole space. You see anything?
Well, yeah, I mean, all the gas in wormhole space is doubled, and gas, especially C540 and C320, I think is the other one. Don't quote me on the second one, but I know 540 is a huge stopping point right now for mass producing new capitals. So if we can get to a point where that's doubled, we get more people mining it and stuff, and there's more availability across the board, then the ability to make the new caps is definitely a plus. They reduced the amount of water required by 50% in building capitals now. So to build an avatar pre-patch was 6 million cubic meters or 6 freighter loads. Now it's only 3 freighter loads to build an avatar.
I got it. Okay, let's talk about skills. This is something that you know a lot about. These skill changes, can you explain them a little bit for those of us who don't quite understand them yet?
Right. So let me call up that part of my, there we go, new skills. Oh, no, it's not in there. Anyway, um, when this was all presented to the CSM, none of the skill stuff was in there. And I begged and pleaded for weeks for them to finally add it in because it made sense and it's really helpful to new players. All of the changes that were done for, or not changes, but when moon mining was introduced, you have the ubiquitous uh, crystals, which are the R4s. And then I think it's common, then uncommon, then rare, then excellent is the R64s. And it was a very good progression, and it limited the amount of skills you had to train. Whereas a new player coming in, if you want to start mining in high sec, well, you train Veldspar. Well, then you can only mine Veldspar while you're training up to mine Scordite. Well, then you can mine those two while you train up to mine Pyro. Now you have one train, and when you're fully trained, you'll be able to mine Veldspar, Scordite, Pyro, and I don't remember, Plagio, I think is the fourth one. But it put all those together and it lowered the overall requirement by, I think, a little over 1 million skill points. It all comes out of the lower end for the most part. That skill point refund that we're going to get is pretty much all out of the lower end. I think it's closer to 1.8. And if it is, that's an entire month of training that a new player will save before they get into Tech 2 crystals for the high sec crystals. Now, after that, it's going to be pretty much the same, but it will reduce the amount of crystals that are in your bay in general. You know, if you're mining somewhere and you have 5 or 6 different ores to get through, you had to have 3 or 4 of each crystal because they go away over time. So it was just a nightmare to make sure you have all that stuff in your cargo. This just reduces it down to what I would call a more manageable level. It also puts all the Pochvin trig ores all in their own category. So it keeps, so there's going to be one crystal for all of those as well. And then Mercoxit stays Mercoxit, it's its own entity.
So that's the abyssal, the stuff in Pochvin will be the abyssal.
Correct, the abyssal ores, that's it.
Abyssal ores, yeah. And that is interesting. Yeah, it was always, so basically what you're seeing now is a shift from very specialized per ore specialization to strata of specialization. So common ores are the low end ores that you can find almost anywhere in high sec. And then the uncommon ores are like the low sec ores, that sort of a thing, instead of 5 common ores that you have to specialize in each one for.
Correct. Yeah, they're pretty regional. Regional as in sec status. So like if someone's going to stay in high sec, they just do the common and they're good, and they need one crystal and they're pretty much good until they venture out somewhere else and try and mining somewhere else.
Okay. And what's cool about this, if you're already somebody who has mining skills and you're maxed out in some of this stuff, is you get a 1.2 credit to undedicated skills, or what do they call unallocated skills. That's a big pot. You can put that in different areas.
Yeah, because there's a lot of new skills coming, because you've got the compression skills, the compression specialization skills. They've added quite a bit. I think overall it doesn't have the new skill. I'm not on the right section. Anyway,
yeah.
there is 4 or 5 million new skills coming in. So
might want to save
now
this.
only the compression guys will need that for sure. If you're not going to compress, it probably won't matter that much. But if you're going to be a compressor, then that Rorkel pilot will need all of those skills for sure.
Okay, another question. Actually, we've seen this from Hirebrand before. He asks, are we getting crystals for Abyssal Ores? Not sure if that's out yet.
No,
Thanks for the raid, Nova. Welcome, Nova fans.
Yeah, I want to say I think so, but I don't know for sure. But why would you have the skills if you don't? Oh, I guess you still need the skills just for reprocessing.
Yeah, reprocessing.
I don't know, but
it's a good question.
I'll ask right now. Let me write that down, and I'll ask and either clarify it for you, or I may not be able to tell you the answer. I don't know, but I'll ask.
He smartly asks CCP Psych, who's in the audience there in chat, and there is a yes returned. I'm not sure what it's.
There you go.
Yep, it says yes. So, good question. Abyssal. So you can basically specialize in Abyssal mining to a different degree now, and it's all one strata.
Right. If your miner lives in Potchman and that's where that ore is, then that's the only one that you need to train, and one crystal, and you can mine everything.
Right. All right, what can you tell me about compression? That seems like it's going to get professionalized.
Right. The first thing I just want to, I know there's a lot of questions about the stations and the Can
we just say that?
Compressing and Ores.
Can we just say that together? Compressing in stations, or compression in stations?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
It's going to be a 90% for minerals and for gas, and a 79% for ice efficiency. So if you compress mineral ore in a station / citadel, you're going to lose 10%, period. Okay, it's just a flat rate, but you compress instantly and you can go on about your day. If you do it in the Rorkel or the Orca or the Porpoise, there's slightly varying differences of skills and this and that. But for a Rorkel maxed out, you can get it down to about 2 or 3%. And something else that I had a hand in with this, I kind of stumbled on it by accident, and CCP Psych helped me out here. But when this was kind of first approached, it was you put 100 in and you got like 98 back, you lost a percentage, and we worked on it together. And now you're going to put 102 in or 100 and whatever in and get 100 out. That way, all of your output from compression is always reprocessable. So the way that it was before, when you put in a full compression, what you got out may not have been, you would have had leftovers, right, for reprocessing. Mm-hmm. But now you're going to put a little bit more in. It kind of shifted his percentage tables a little bit. But now what you're going to get out from a compression cycle will always be reprocessable. And we're also changing the numbers. So like right now, if you put in 100 Veldspar, you get 1 compressed Veldspar out. Now, if you put in, after the patch, if you put in 100 Veldspar, you're going to get 100 compressed Veldspar out. And all the compressed Veldspar in game is all going to get multiplied by 100 on patch day, so that it'll be the same. But that way, you don't have to have separate tables for compressed ore versus non-compressed ore. The only difference between compressed ore and regular ore will be the size. But 100, and you can't combine them. Like you can't have 50 compressed ore and 50 non-compressed ore and reprocess them. You have to have 100 of one or the other. But if you have 100 of them, then the same table applies for reprocessing. It makes it, people had a hard time, I guess, newer players understanding that one compressed equaled 100 uncompressed. So now they're all going to be the same numbers and you get the same output.
You're compressing the weight so it fits in a ship better, so you can move it around.
Correct.
As opposed to the amount. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely correct.
All right. Well, there's a
if he's in
here.
chat, I hope I was okay to say that.
Yeah, correct us if you're wrong. If we're wrong,
oh no, I know I'm right. I don't know if he wanted that out or not. But I thought that was some of the ways that the CSM has really influenced, kind of how this progressed, because we've been looking at this since like March or April. So it's been 6 months of freaking spreadsheets and 9 different things on Confluence and trying to figure out this goes with this over here. And I had stuff everywhere, 4 monitors filled up with stuff, and I was still confused half the time.
Well, there was a couple questions here that I want to go back to. One is, sorry, I can't cite whoever said this, but this is minerals and ore both?
No, minerals you can't compress
at all.
It's only the ore.
Ever. Okay. Let's get that.
Okay, so mineral compression, if you look up mineral compression, that was back pre-Creus in 2014. You had mineral compression because what you would do is buy minerals in HiSec, turn it into 425 railguns, XL ammo, and Bastion modules and a few other things. And then you could fit an entire Titan in 2 jump freighters, jump it to nullsec, reprocess it at 100%, lose absolutely not a single mineral, and then build your Titan. That was mineral compression.
So it was
back
slang.
in the day.
It was slang. Okay.
Exactly. It wasn't actually part of the game. It was just what players named it and what players did. But it was never a function in the game. All the compression has only always been for the raw harvested product, whether it be mineral ore and now moon ore and gas, whether it be Mito, Psycho, or the fullerenes, or ice.
Right. And now gas too. So the what was my next question? Oh yeah, the moon ores can only be compressed where?
In a Rorkel.
That's it.
In space. You do not have to have the industrial core active, but you will lose tether. So if you are next to somewhere and you're tethered, and say like you had a moon mining op at this Athenor and you ended up with a bunch of ore in that moon, then you can bring the Rorkel alongside and it can tether, but it can't dock, obviously. So then you bring out a freighter dumps a bunch into the fleet hangar, or it gets into the fleet hangar, you put it into the module starts compressing, and some bad people arrive. At that point, you can stop the cycle, you lose whatever you're compressing, but you'll retether, or you just let it go to the end and try and fend them off the best you can type thing. That's kind of how it worked, but you will not have to go into industrial mode or Indy core active in order to compress.
Okay, I'm going to bring in another friend that's familiar to you. He and you guys. He is Ravendell, and Ravendell is going to join us here. He has a website, RavWorks, I think it is. And if you haven't been using it, you probably should. How you doing, Rav?
Hello, doing good.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a while.
All right, we're talking
back on TIS as well.
Yeah. Your site became very popular as predicted. I think all 3 of us went through the industrial changes together when your site was born, basically. And it's been a real big help for players. So I'm bringing you in to see, if you have any questions or comments as we go through this stuff.
Yeah, so I'm not nearly as well versed in it yet as I'm sure Kenneth is with all his pre-knowledge he already has. I guess I do have one question right now, and that is to what extent do we know? Well, first point of confusion maybe the compression in the stations. So it said in the dev block that you can now compress in stations. Does it mean only upload structures, or is it like also the NPC stations?
I'm not sure if CCP Psych is here, he might be able to ask, but I know before it was only in places that had a refinery attached to it. So if you were in an NPC station with a refinery, I think you could. I don't know. I live in nullsec, so I'm not around, but it applies to basically wherever it was before. But in a Citadel, you have to have a reprocessing module,
Yeah.
a service module, in order to do it.
And then the other thing is, though I don't think those numbers were in the dev block yet, but like there is a inefficiency that like the compression is no longer lossless. So now,
Oh, they're not in there?
would there be like a difference in how efficient it is in a station versus in a Rorkel? And with the skills as well, if you have like a skill that gives you the compression specialization skill, for example, I'm assuming you get less loss when you have a higher level of that. But
Yeah,
I don't think those
were they
numbers
not?
there.
They were not included in the spreadsheet.
In the spreadsheet, maybe they are actually. I haven't had as much time for it.
By the way, there is an answer from CCP Psych, again, who's in the audience. Places that you could before, we're talking about compression, so there's an answer for your question. But there are discussions, so.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. So whatever it was before, it's the same now. But I don't know if I don't think that's all stations. I think it's just stations that had refining or reprocessing in them, but I'm not sure on that. But Citadels, you always had to have a reprocessing module.
By the way, all this is on Test Center right now, so you can go and start checking this stuff out yourself, getting some idea of how it works, and then giving your feedback to CSM members or to CCP, whoever you have contact with. And so if this is gameplay that you're involved with, I encourage you to do that and be part of the process of making sure it comes out really well.
Oh, it doesn't look like the modules for compression made it to the spreadsheet. It might be
either.
Right. Yeah. They might still be working on some of that, but I can tell you this: it's definitely a ton better than what you're looking at from doing it in the station. It's a couple. I think on the high end, it's pretty close to 2.5%, something like that. Somewhere around there. I'm sure that'll change a little bit, but it's definitely much better than in stations.
Because in stations it's saying 90% for ore and about 80% for ice.
Correct.
And then, so
correct.
in like a max setup with a Rorkel and whatever, it would be something like 98% or something.
Yeah, 97, 98, somewhere around there. It's I don't know that the numbers may not be final. That's why they didn't put it out, but it's somewhere real close to there.
All right. So just to remind you guys, we're talking to Kenneth Feld over here. He's a CSM member, a longtime industrialist, Pandemic Legion. And Ravendell over here, Ravworks is his site. So check out that site. Just Ravworks, right? Super simple.
Yep, just Ravworks. I'm still working on an update for it at the moment.
I was going to ask.
So
I have word that there may be an SDE coming. Maybe.
Hey.
SDE, if I'm not mistaken, is something to allow developers like Ravendell to have better access to things that help him connect it to Eve. So a site developer kit or something?
It's basically the giant recipe book with all the information that is available in the game, apart from dynamic information, which you need to pull from the server. I
just got word that some of the reasons that some of the numbers aren't in here is there's going to be a mass test, and also they're going to be watching Sissy. So there's still, all these numbers, there's still some wiggle room here, and they're still going to be refining some numbers like the compression and that kind of stuff as people use it. So, nothing's final, but that's kind of kind of their thinking.
Do we know when these changes come into the game? Are we thinking 1 week, or is this like a month?
Okay. So I'm going to go by the reasonable person standard here. They've already said, I think the devlog said that the skills would be in by the end of the month, right? That was in the devlog. Yes.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
Okay.
Don't know.
So that was in the devlog. Yeah, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least other people have told me that. I haven't actually had a chance to sit down and read the whole thing yet. So that being said, you've got this big, huge change that you want a lot of people to go after, and you're coming up into one of the biggest holiday seasons of the year.
Yeah.
So you think that they would really want it out by Christmas. And the July blog said that I think it was coming out, would be December. I'm not really sure. Some people are saying stuff. But anyway, typically in the past, when skills have come out, it's only been a couple weeks before the real blog, the real patch came out, right? So if we get skills this month, you can probably figure a couple weeks and you'll get the patch after that. I don't know that anything's set in stone yet per se, but I mean, that's a reasonable person could, kind of go by those metrics and, infer some things, and there you go.
Christmas patch confirmed.
Oh, I don't think it would be Christmas Day because, whatever patch day is, you've got a couple days of, putting out the fires and fixing this or that. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I don't.
Yeah. Plus, a super low point at Christmas. Like, it's funny. There's a huge dip for the actual 3 or 4 days around Christmas. Okay, so we're gonna say chalk it up to could be a week, could be 3-4 weeks, somewhere in between, probably.
Somewhere in December, likely.
All right. So
one thing we haven't covered here is the new crystals.
Okay. They're not on the sheet, but
yeah, they are.
They are. There they are. Okay,
they're in their mining crystals.
Yeah.
The alpha is essentially the crystals like we have today. They're going to be pretty close to today. The Bravo crystals have a little bit more waste. They have a probability added to the waste, but you get a cycle time bonus. So you'll get the ore faster, but you'll waste a little bit more. I have not seen like a real use case for that yet, but hey, it's an option. But the ones that I really think are going to be cool, and I am waiting to see how people possibly use them, is the C types. So the C types, if you look, they have a wastage multiplier of 18. So to go back to what we were talking about, if you got that 5,000, that rock with 5,000 of something, and you're pulling 500 in, what's the wastage at 500 times 18? That would be 9,000, right?
Yeah.
Did I do the math right? Yeah, that's 9,000. So when you have that 5,000 rock and you're pulling in your 500, remember, wastage comes first. How much of that rock is going to be left after that cycle?
Oh, wow. Wastage comes first. I didn't know.
Absolutely nothing.
Yep.
Even if that rock was 10,000 and you pulled 500 in and 9,000 goes poof, there's only 500 left in that rock after that.
So
the amount of damage that you can do to a field in a very short amount of time is you go through low sec. Hey, someone's R64 popped or something, or someone pops 4 or 5 R64s at a time, and they're only mining one of them. If you can sneak over and do 4 or 5 cycles of monzonite or loperite or something like that, you can decimate the amount of money that they're going to make off of that moon in a very short amount of time.
We're talking about offensive mining, right? PvP mining.
Correct. The other thing is say, now the ore anomalies are a lot different now, but in the old days, there was always this stupid dark ochre rock that no one ever wanted, but you had to mine it in order for the thing to respawn. Now, if you get a rock that you don't want, but you need it to respawn, just put that sea crystal on there, just let it pop. Hey, now you start the respawn timer on it. You don't actually have to sit there and mine all that. So you essentially mine at 19 times speed to get rid of the rock.
Well, about that though, because I was looking at that. So normally you mine at, let's say, 100%, and you have 100% waste with like a basic crystal basic setup, I think.
No, 34%. If you have a Tech 1 strip, it's 100%. A Tech 2 strip, which is the only ones that use crystals, are 34%.
Okay, so if you have so with a Type C, I was just looking at the waste number because it's a multiplier of 18, and then if you add it to the normal 100%, and then on top of that the normal 100% that you actually get, you would end up at about 20. Anyway, it would be something like 10 to 18% faster, or something, or 10 to 18 times faster or something, I think.
Right, but the C also has the wastage probability bonus of 59%. When you add that to the 34, you're pretty much maxed out. So you're going to have the 18 times multiplier every time.
I don't know these numbers entirely yet then. Okay.
Right, yeah. So it gives you a few percent that it may not happen, but chances are it's going to happen, and you'll mine out the rock 19 times faster because you got to count the one that's going to potentially end up in your ore hole plus the 18 times wastage.
So this is basically, this Type C is like a vacuum cleaner to pick up all the dust and stuff that so you can clean off the area and get a new anomaly that's fresh and get the stuff you want. And then again, use Type C to blast all this stuff into oblivion that you don't want to reset it.
It's basically like using a bazooka to cut a watermelon.
But also, I see a lot of potential for harassing miners' fields, going there and just locusting their crops.
Or if you get a spy in somewhere and someone's mining somewhere and your spy has the C types fitted and you start mining and all the rocks just start going plink, 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 plink.
Because nobody can see.
Right.
Nobody can see what he's getting.
Someone better start ship scanning and figure out who's got the seed crystals.
Oh, wow. So you can actually have spy possibilities in big industrial mining fleets. And you won't be able to pick out who's destroying the rocks and who's actually mining.
No, I think the wastage does show up on the mining ledger at least.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Does it? Yeah, I don't know if wastage is getting added to the mining ledger. So if it is, then you'll get found out pretty quick probably. But still, you could have some fun with it.
That's too bad. That sounds pretty interesting. New career choices.
I'm sure HiSec is going to have a whole lot of fun with this stuff, where you can't really shoot each other, but you can mine each other's resources dead.
So Dreech says, no, waste will not be shown in the ledger. I'm not sure if he's knows that for sure, but somebody else says, docking stations, does wasted ore go against industry index? Oh, that's a good question too.
Yeah, right now it's just M3 mine, so I'm not sure.
So can you lower an index by using Type C?
That would actually raise the index because the index is the amount of cubic meters that's mined. That would be a good question for CCP Psych if he's still listening.
So you're killing
If not, I'll ask him privately.
So you're inflating the index. I think what does that do?
We don't know if wastage affects the index or not.
Oh, okay.
If it's only what ends up in your cargo hold or what.
All right, let's not talk about it then because we'll confuse people. So we'll find out to waste. Oh, there it is. CCP Paradox says waste is in the ledger. There's a confirmation. So Rav, you're right. And we have not made a final decision on that. I think it's open discussion. So that is interesting stuff. Now, the miners are thinking, oh my God, they're going to make it so people can destroy our gameplay. and the people who are more into subterfuge and that kind of stuff are thinking like, what great opportunities do I have to mess with somebody's income? So again, it looks like a lot of this is still being discussed.
19 times faster is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, that's a lot of capability there to mine for sure.
Mm-hmm. Typical Manx says, any tips for new players like myself?
The new ships, where CSM is lobbying to make them a little bit tankier. Start on the new skills when they come out, and you'll get all of the HiSec crystals with one skill, and you can start there. I know Nick Boson, doesn't he? I don't know if his player corp is noob friendly or not, but there are a lot of friendly corps out there. Find a corp, get out of your NPC corp, and just learn the ropes and learn what's going on and continue on from there.
How about new shy players that don't want to be forced into group play?
Yeah, well, this is a MMO, but if you are that shy and just want to go, just be on your own. Just please do not jump in a mining ship and not fit tank. Tank doesn't cost that much. Fit a tank. The gankers will move on if you're not an easy target. Please fit your tank and mine your heart's content.
So that's a good point, because mining for a long time has been, I'll put a ship out there, I'll just mine, maybe AFK, maybe I'll watch it, but I know it's going to die if somebody comes to kill it. That is no longer the case. You might be able to survive being attacked, depending on where these tank numbers settle, how much damage you can take before you get destroyed. And that's still up for discussion. And also, it looks like some of this harassment play with the Type C crystal is still up for grabs too. So that seems like it's still being worked out. If you want to weigh in, talk to your CSM member. Some stuff that we're, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing with high sec moons, if someone has a really nice high sec R4 and they're mining it, if you come over and mine it, they can't shoot you. So you can just sit there and wail on their stuff with the C types and just sit there while they watch you make all their stuff go poof.
Yep.
Yeah. You seem to say it with a smile. You seem to say it with a smile all the time. You talk about
I'm not saying that I won't be out there.
have some sympathy.
I won't be on Kenneth, obviously, because the Popo comes after me when I go to high sec. But, I might be out there on a high sec pilot just to, hey, look, there's an R4 moon. I wonder how fast I can make that stuff go away.
Is the Porpoise getting compression in any way? It's kind of a command ship. It's in that line.
Yeah, I don't have the dev blog up, but I'm pretty sure it gets something.
Yeah, CCP Swift's in the audience there. He says, not for moon ore, neither does the Orca, by the way, but for everything else. So the answer is yes.
Yeah, the Orca and the Porpoise, I wasn't sure about the ice, but I think they get gas, ice, and mineral, and then the Rorkel is the only one that gets moon. And there's no moon in stations.
There's no mooning in stations. Okay.
No moon compression in stations.
Right. I think we've said that, and we want to be explicitly clear, because we know this as a fact, that the only way to compress moon ore is a Rorkel.
Correct.
And a Rorkel can only exist in low sec or null sec. And
correct.
Wormholes too, right?
Technically wormhole space.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, in wormholes. But wormholes only get R4 as well. They don't get moon goo.
But it can't be in Poshvin because you can't jump into Poshvin, right?
If they're already there, they can be there. But if they're not already there, then there's no. I don't know if I don't think they can build them. So yeah, they're probably stuck.
Yeah.
Is there even moon ore mining in Portsmouth though? I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know. I just wanted to go through all the sections of space.
I don't think there is.
Yeah. Okay, so do you guys have any tips for not just new players but advanced players? Like, what are some of the things that people should be doing?
If you are a Rorkel pilot that's a long time old school miner and you have all your mining reprocessing skills and exhumer skills, dust off a Hulk or a Mackinac. If not, I'm sorry, but your Rorkel isn't the Hoover monster that it once was, but it still mines at a decent clip. I mean, it's not like, they printed ISK for 2 years and now they're no longer going to print ISK. They'll still be pretty much AFK, except for the rock sizes are so small now that you have to, keep up with it pretty good. They're going to still require a lot of moving because the drone travel time is so slow. But you can mine for half a day and barely have to empty your ore hold. So, they've got pluses and minuses for sure.
Do we know if with a doubled amount of asteroid or the doubled amount of ore in a moon pool, do we know if there's going to be more rocks to mine, or if the rocks that are there are going to be larger so that you can sit on them longer, for example?
I know, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say or not. Psych or Paradox might be able to answer.
Test center.
I asked that the other day, and I got the answer, but it's not in the dev blog. So
yeah, I asked it earlier in this conversation as well, but I guess we'll have to go to test center and find out, which we will do on Talking in Stations. We'll do some test runs, maybe even do those live for you, and report back throughout the week like we did for the production changes. Okay,
I'm sure the math.
Yeah, so the math what?
The mass test will probably show us, but not sure.
Okay. Some of the stuff that we're hearing out there comes from, we won't say which alliance, but here is the general advice that we're hearing. Compress all your ore now. Don't produce any capital ship components right now. Start training T2 exhumers if you can. And save your Rorkel. So if you're an advanced player and you fit it, and these are some of the things that you might run into, those are pieces of advice that we're getting out there.
That is absolutely solid advice. And I would say if that alliance is in nullsec, start training your skills for the nullsec ores, because when they do the skill swap, you either get that skill back or it will apply to the new ones. I'm not sure how the exchange is exactly going to work. And if you already have those skills, you're good there.
Should everybody be doing that? Should everybody be training refining skills or
reprocessing skills?
Reprocessing skills?
Yeah, I'm not sure how the swap over is going to work. I don't know if they're just going to refund it all, or like if you already have the skills, they inject a new book for you and give you the thing and only give you the 1.8 million back. I don't know how that swap over is actually going to work.
Well, how did it work in the past? When
I don't know that we've done a change this big that affected this much all at one time.
I think we've done like 3. Well, I think they've done it a few ways, but
honestly, that's CCP Paradox's problem. And he may not have the answer yet himself. He may still be looking into how to make that work. But either way, there'll be current skills that will no longer be made. And normally, like when they did the battle cruiser thing, if you had all the battle cruisers trained, they just gave you the new skill and maxed it out at 5, right?
Yeah.
So I would imagine this would probably be the same way. If you have all 4 of the skills that's required for common ore, they'll probably take those 4 away and just give you the common and, add up all the SP that you had in those 4 and put that much in common. That's what I would think, but I do not know for sure. And I don't know that it's even been fully decided yet.
Okay. I think it might have been, he says, and that is, Paradox says it's all in the dev blog.
Okay.
But I remember when they did, I'll go and read the dev blog myself instead of having the computer do it. When they did the fax changes or the force auxiliary changes, they initially came out with skill books for the force auxiliaries, and then they said, yeah, let's not do that. Let's just make it carrier, I think, or was it the other way around? And there was a big refund of skill points. So what people did right before that refund was to just train the heck out of the skill that was going to be refunded, because then you can, instead of deciding where you're going to allocate those points, you can train into something that's going away and get a refund of all the points. So now you're training into unallocated skill points, and that allows you flexibility that you don't have any other way. So
if you want to get your compression skills up really, really quickly, you probably want to train some reprocessing skills and then get the SP from that, and then immediately pump it into the new compression skills when they come out.
Right. Hit the ground
Is that
running.
what they said? Are they going to refund everything?
Well, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, so here's what it says. It says, condensing all the reprocessing skills from 19 to 6, refunding up to 13.568 million skill points to be optionally reallocated into the new categories, 11,700,000. Yeah, so it is a 1.8 million difference. ISK will also be refunded for the base price for the deleted skill books. Okay, so they're just going to give you ISK for whatever skill books you have, refund all of your skill points for those skills,
Yeah.
and then you'll have to buy the new skill books and reallocate the empty skills. That's the cleanest way to do it and
Right.
the easiest for sure. Gives people the most flexibility. So people, if you trained or if you trained mining on your PvP pilot that you no longer want to be able to mine and you haven't extracted it over the years, this is your free extraction. You're
Mhm.
welcome. Courtesy of CCP Paradox.
All right. So those are some of the highlights. Rav, do you have anything that you're curious about? Is your site going to change? I think you were going to make an update.
Yeah, but the update that I have is not particularly related specifically to the new changes. I am curious how the new changes are going to affect all the compression calculators that people have, but that's not on my website yet anyway, so no changes from me yet.
Just so you know, your SDE, that is a wholly owned subsidiary of CCP Paradox as well. He's the one who makes the SDE. So
nice. We should drag him on. Maybe we'll try to drag him on and put him in front of all these people. He's doing a great job answering questions there. All right, we've been at it for like 90 minutes. And I just want to say thank you very much to Kenneth for hanging out with us and walking us through some of these changes. And for Ravendell, who is the owner of RavWorks. So check out that website. It's a great industrial website. Very visual, actually, unlike most industrial websites. And what we're going to do next is invite you to Talking in Stations Discord to hang out in public. We'll just do a few minutes there and talk with some of the people that have gathered who are talking about this, as Talking in Stations is open 24/7 for you to hang out with other EVE players and talk about the issues that are coming and issues that are happening. You guys have any last comments or words or anything? All right, Kenneth.
No, I just yeah.
Have fun in Spain.
I know the Rorkel nerfs hurt. It is what it is, and I don't think anyone thought they were going to come out of this unscathed. We've worked on this for quite some time. I'm happy the skill changes got put in. That really reduces the complexity a ton, especially for new players. I'm happy the way that worked out. It's been a long 5 months, and I'm glad this is over. I can't imagine Psych or Paradox. They're probably about ready to have a party.
Rav, any last comments?
No, nothing this quick yet. I'll have to let it sink in a little bit more first.
Yeah, this is brand new a few hours ago. All right, well, everybody go to RavWorks, check out the site. Great work by both these guys. All right, thanks. We're going to move in.
Go to Sissy and try this out.
We're now going to move into the public channel. You can get to it if you're on Talking in Stations Discord. If you're not on Discord, you should be. I'll give you a link to it now. You have to prove you're not a bot, so you have to type in -not a bot, all one word. And that allows you to get into the full Talking in Stations Discord. And okay, so we will see you there in just a minute. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're not on.
All right, we're back.
That's okay.
No. This is a PS. Go ahead, Kenneth. What were you going to say?
I was just looking on Hobo Leaks, and Hobo Leaks has I've only seen the asteroid ore one so far, but the compression modules are 97.5% efficient. Just to give you, now again, these numbers are subject to change. It's not in the dev blog, but it is on Hobo Leaks. It is public information at that point. So I can talk about that exact numbers. 97.5 is what's on Hobo Leaks. However, that is all this stuff is subject to change depending on what we see on Sissy. CSM is still lobbying for some things behind the scenes. blah, blah, blah. But get on Sissy and try it out. Sorry. Thanks.
Okay.
That 97, what was it? The 97.5%, that doesn't include any modifiers from like compression specialization skills or stuff like that, right? Or I guess we don't know yet.
Yeah. I think that's the base.
Right.
Well, we can find out next because we're going to have experts like Fonsui in the public channel and Ashtarothi and a few others that are hanging out in there. We'll give you time to get there, guys. But we're going to take a quick break. Say thanks to Kenneth, who may join us, and Rav, who may join us. I'm not sure. Everybody is all over the world. All right. From Los Angeles, we'll be back in just a minute. All right, we're back. Here we are with a big group of people in Talking in Stations Discord. If you're not in Talking Stations Discord, you should be. Go to this address that we give you here, or go to community. If you have Discord, you can actually go to the Explorer public or Explore public. You type in EVE Online, open mic there, and you'll see Talking in Stations right here. Oh, that's Eve Echoes. Where did Talking? It's way down here now.
Is Nick here?
No.
Nick Bison's going to hate you after not having high sec compression of Moongoo.
Yeah,
right.
well, okay, sure. I'll take that. But I'm wondering what he thinks about the skill changes and the compression of all the different crystals and stuff that he's going to need. Especially he's a newer player too.
All right, so let's get started. Anyone have any comments or questions? Just speak up. I'll try to sort you out.
Yeah, I have a question, a point of clarification from something we talked about in the stream a moment ago. The dev blog says compressed types, that is compressed ore, will now have the same portion size as their uncompressed counterparts. You can calculate the compression ratio by the difference of volume between the two types. And the interpretation I heard on the stream a moment ago was that we're currently 100 units of uncompressed ore equals 1 unit of compressed ore. In the future, 1 unit of uncompressed ore will equal 1 unit of compressed ore. Right?
You got it.
Okay, so that means that if you are sitting on a unit of compressed ore right now, you have about 2 weeks to liquidate that because it's going to lose 99% of its value.
No, on patch day.
About that.
Yeah, on patch day, if you have 1 compressed unit, on patch day you'll have 100.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually says that it's going to change the quantities to make it so that there's no loss.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's the next bullet point. Okay.
Yeah, that's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that we didn't cover that you guys want to make a note of?
I think you guys covered it really quickly before I was on, but what is the ratio right now with Rorkels compared to Hulks? Because I think at the moment, before the changes, it's 2 and a little bit Hulks mine the same amount as a Rork, something along those lines?
No. Okay, so paper mining. A Hulk right now, a Rorkel right now is 445,000 cubic meters per hour.
Yep.
A Hulk now with max Rorkel boost is 275,000 cubic meters per hour.
All right, so it's already, it's about, what, 60 something percent?
Correct. And after the patch, the Hulk will be probably, the numbers have changed a lot the past 3 days, so it's kind of hard to say, but it should be about 20 to 30% better than a Rorkel.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So you definitely want to be mining in Hulks all the time instead of Works.
Assuming you have a Rorkel booster. If you
Yeah,
don't have a
yeah.
Rorkel booster, then Rorkel.
It also depends on your style. If you want a little more time before you have to empty your cargo, the Mackinac is still your go-to. Is that right? Bigger cargo hold or ore hold?
Correct. Yeah, the ore hold on the Mackinac is much better. So for AFK style mining, the Mackinac is your ship. Or depending on how you want to, the less, what's it, APM? Is that what they track for how many clicks per second before you get carpal tunnel? Yeah. So your APM on a Mackinac is much, much, much less than on a Hulk. Your APM on a maxed out Hulk will be brutal.
Mal, can you do a push to talk, please? Just for this thing.
Well, there's also the fact that the Hulk is like a frigate in the HP.
And that might be changing,
we kind of talked about that. Numbers subject to change.
The Hulk might get more tank. I think that's still what's being debated right now.
I mean, even if you triple it, it's not a capital ship.
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you're going to do crazy shit in crazy places, yeah. And panic or whatever, then Rorkel's your guy for sure.
Subscripts. What?
You have a question or comment?
But if you're in safe space and you got the time and the energy, then Hulks are going to get it done quicker for sure.
What's going on here? What are we talking about?
We're actually live, Gabriel, so you know.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
It's all right. We're talking.
Carry on.
It's all right. We're talking about industrial changes. Stick around. Just wanted to let you know.
Kenneth, I got a question there for you. So the way I look at it, me being one type, I'm a ganker. On all spot other type, I have I got mining tunes. But the only thing I don't see is like the porpoise gets a good bonus, but they haven't kind of buffed any of its fleet hangers or anything. So practically they still kind of obsolete. It's kind of hard if you have a fleet of.
Okay, so I'm having a hard time understanding you, and you're putting up. I'm having a hard time understanding you, and you're putting a lot of verbiage in your question. Just get to the question part, please.
All right. The question would be, say, a porpoise in nullsec. Would they be better off kind of buffing, say, the fleet hanger and the ore hold in it?
Didn't it get an ice hold and a gas hold added to it?
I believe so. Also,
I think all three of the command ships got ice holds and gas holds added to them, and each ship has a different purpose, right? Orcas are fat. No, they're slower than Rorquals at warping, right? They're horrible. But a porpoise is about the same as a Hulk or a cruiser, right? Maybe even a little bit quicker. So there's trade-offs there across the way. Increasing the size of the ore hold just alone, I'll write it down as a note to look into it, but that isn't necessarily what the goal was there. You got gas and ice added, and it's still a fantastic ship. If you get 3 or 4, coveters or something and trip into a wormhole, pull some gas out of it, and, go on out, you can compress the gas with the porpoise while you're in there and then skedaddle out. That could be a good paying day for a couple guys.
So that's
I was about to say, isn't the compression essentially a massive increase of your ore hold?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So like that is essentially the big buff, I guess.
Yeah, compression
Yeah,
is for the Orca and the Porpoise. Compression is everything with this patch. Everything else is just kind of ancillary. Now the Orca did get some decent boosts for high sec and that kind of stuff with the core. The core will increase the boost amount quite a bit, but to take an Orca into a wormhole for the day, that's probably pushing it a little bit. And it definitely wouldn't fit in some of the smaller holes that most people would want to go in for the day type thing.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
So really this boils down to the purpose of the porpoise, right? So
say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, the porpoise gets used where the Orca can't. So there's two basic reasons to use the porpoise. One, in dangerous areas, therefore you can't afford to use a porpoise or an Orca or risk it, or in areas in which the Orca can't get into, like for instance, certain wormholes, especially maybe the shattered wormholes, etc. And so in those environments, right, like if you're injecting yourself to do some dangerous mining and then get out wherever it is, you don't necessarily want them. The more you buff the porpoise and its hauling, the more you're allowing them to pull out from that dangerous area, and you want to control that pretty significantly. Whereas the Orca is about mining the area that you control, right, or a little bit more safely. And so it's more about throughput. So if you can use the Orca safely or effectively, then you would use it. Just like if you can use a Rorkel, you would use it. But if you can't, then you sacrifice some of the benefit of those nicer things in order to still get, a support ship of that caliber.
Nope. What I can really see the porpoise, or at least any of these new industrials with compression now, becoming a massive help when it comes to gas mining in wormhole space. Because what you will do is like you get a group of prospects, or I guess now the mining barges with the gas harvesters, and then you just compress that all with a porpoise and then grab a little prospect, fill it up with all the compressed gas that is way more worth now, and then just shuttle that back to your home hole or whatever, and then use that as your little shuttle bus while you're mining consistently with your boost and your porpoise up. It's the logistics of it are going to be way easier with the on-the-fly compression.
I think also day tripping in wormholes is now going to be a lot easier, because previously you just bring your venture and you mine it and you come in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Now you can go 3, 4, 5 chains deep with your porpoise and go for a decent day trip with a bunch of your mates and go for your gas mine and then come back out.
Yeah, and even like what I'm trying to say as well is like what you can do is just grab one of your ventures or one prospect and fill that up full of compressed gas instead of normal gas, and it can haul like a hell of a lot of loads in one go.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So Orca without indie core, it's the same Orca that we have today, right? So the indie core only gets bonus. It's not.
I think it lost. Didn't it lose the hull bonus? Lost some mining yield bonus.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm pulling up the difference right now.
Boosting things is the same.
Its base boost is, I believe, still the same, but now it can also get the boost. No, because it was a 3% bonus. It is currently a 3% bonus to mining foreman bursts, and the new version is.
3, 2, 1.
I don't know. Hold on. I guess no, you're right, because all of the bonuses now move to the core because it only has a range boost.
Yeah. So to follow that up, so does that mean in order to have the same Orca, you have to use the indie core on the Orca to achieve the same thing that we have
Correct.
nowadays? Isn't that making much higher risk to the Orca in high sec, because you don't have a panic like a Rorkel does with ganking, because you're set for 5 minutes.
It does have a significantly better tank, or well, a 30% better tank while core or while in industrial mode or whatever.
It depends on the cost of the core if it's still worth ganking or not, right?
Well, it's an Orca.
The core and the compression modules, I'm assuming they're going to be high slots?
Hold on.
What are they in the Rorkel?
Well, yeah, but the
Well, the
compression
core is a high
I guess.
slot, but the compression modules don't exist.
Oh, that's a good point.
So Orcas will have an indie core and will go to the siege mode.
Okay, hold on. So what's
I guess it's not in the dev log, so I'm not sure.
right?
I
Yeah,
can see
and
it
I'm
in the-
looking on Hobo Leaks to see if it says, because if Hobo Leaks say it, then I can say Hobo Leaks says it's this.
Well, Hobo just parses the game files. So if the Singularity update was pushed, that means that Hobo got it and parsed the files, and it's public.
Right.
A lot of it's there.
It is pushed.
Okay. Well, if it's on Sissy, then it's a high slot module.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I did have one question. The value of high-end moon goo, as far as my understanding goes, has generally been at least somewhat limited by supply. The vast majority of R32 and R64 moons get mined consistently. With the increase in pull rate combined with T2/faction mining lasers providing you with, say, just standard T2, right? Basically an extra 66% on an R64. Are we looking at T2 prices taking a pretty significant drop?
That's one of the things I've been thinking about, like, because it's a question of relative, supply, right? So the extraction of all moons are being doubled, but also the number of ore rocks are being doubled. But as people have pointed out, ore rocks got slashed in quantity, which means it's being doubled isn't actually as big of an increase in quantity. So will this reduce the value of the T2 mats because of increased availability of moon goo versus ore? I don't know.
Well, it has nothing to do with regular ore, right? Like, there's a certain level of demand for T2 ships that, like, even the war didn't manage to, like, significantly push up the value of, like, hacks, for example.
Let me be clear. The reason why I was relating those two is because in order to build the T2, you must also build the T1. It's just like the relationship between, as T2 became much more expensive with Triglavian ships, it made the value of T1 ships change too, because people weren't needing to build them in order to make them into T1 or T2. So if you drastically increase the amount of T2 product that's out there without increasing the amount of ore, then you're actually shifting the value of a T2 ship towards its T1 counterpart. But I don't know, like I said.
I don't think that's relevant. A rupture is like 20 mil out of the 200 and whatever for a munin. Like 10% at best.
You're always thinking about the smaller guy. That's your preferred game style, is playing a smaller group rather than a big alliance. Do you see any effects that are going to hit smaller groups that are not even industrial, but maybe a group like yours that's more PvP oriented?
I have no idea where capital prices are going to land, and that's basically the only thing that I care about. The changes to the blueprints was like, I guess, a minor way of alleviating some of the problems, but all of the problems still exist. They're just not as painful. It's hard to say.
Isn't a big chunk of the problem just the faction ship market? That really seems to struggle.
The biggest problem, if you're a PvP oriented group and you want to actually have capitals getting built somewhere, is that you still need a ton of PI. They've reduced it a bit, but it's still a lot. And PvP groups in general, or the ones that are very focused on PvP, have very few people that are willing to go through the eternal suffering that is PI.
Yeah, the one thing it did, having the water really helped. Because water and C540, like if you go to JITA, if you go to RavWorks, I don't know, what's the other one? The Eve Cookbook. and you get the set of raw whatever you needed, and you output that to multi-buy. You go to JITA and you put that in multi-buy for a revelation. And if you just start with 1 and click 2, 3, 4, 5 on immediate until you run out of the first material. Now, it's been a little bit since I did it, but water was the first thing you ran out of. The second thing you ran out of was C540. The third thing you ran out of was oxygen.
That's a false economy because you don't move water around. It's too bulky to move.
Yeah,
sure,
you can't jump freight water out to an asphalt.
Okay,
like,
so here's the
disaster.
thing, though. You've got to look at the use cases for this stuff, right? Someone in nullsec, I'm sitting on, I think 400 million water right now. I'm good, right? Because I have alliances that you know everyone does it type thing. So that being said, there's a subset of people who rely on JITA for everything. Like no one in snuff is going to go out and mine and collect P1 water to make capitals. They expect everything to be on the market in JITA. They go to JITA, they buy it, they put it in a jump freighter, they take it somewhere, and they press buttons and out spits a revelation, right? So you've got to look at it from both sides of the coin. The other thing is people building battleships. Water was one of the big things needed to build battleships because of the I forget the name of the
core temperature regulator.
Yeah, core temperature regulator. Yeah. So, and I think some of the faction ships require that too.
Yep.
All of them.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So that really helped on that side of the coin. It also affects capitals, but I would think that change would be a lot more directed at faction and battleships, more so than necessarily the capitals. Although it does take what's required to build an avatar down from 6 million water to 3 million water. So from 6 freighters to 3 freighters. So, there is progress there.
I think
3 freighters is still, what, 10 jump freighter loads?
So again, as I was saying kind of earlier, maybe there's a difference between things that are hard to source because it's valuable, and there are things that are hard to source because they are bulky. And water, the thing about things like water and those kinds of PI stuff is that yes, it is bulky, but on the other hand, any system that that you can use to build a rock wall, you probably have the planets to be able to at least produce water. So I think that the expectation would be that those PI would be built locally, or at least harvested locally.
Yes. The problem is you're asking people who don't play this game for the PvE to not only do PvE, but do the PvE equivalent of peasant labor.
Well, somebody has to, sure.
Let's take a few steps back. First of all, P1 PI does not go through JITA very much. You're assuming that JITA, because for a vast majority of objects, JITA has the vast majority of things to sell. P1 PI is produced in nullsec, and it is mostly used in nullsec. A lot of it does not make to JITA. So to use JITA as the main trade hub, I think, is a false assumption. I think if you go look at R10 or something like that and look at the contracts and private contracts that go through there, you'll see a lot more water transferring hands than you'll ever see anywhere near JITA. The second assumption you're making is someone like Snuffed is going to build their own capitals. If you're going to build your own capitals, then yes, you're going to get your hands dirty and you're going to do PI. That's the result of it. But the guy who's building a capital is also probably not going to be the PvP guy. Like, the Snuff guys aren't building their revelations or whatever out in Snuff. They're going on the PandaFam Discord and buying them off PanFam dudes.
No.
From Mamaki. Yes, they are.
So the change that happened, so prior to industry getting nuked, most PvP focus groups like Snuffed or like Rote, we had people in Alliance who would buy everything, import it, and build the capitals. The people building the capitals were PvPers. They just had an import business functionally set up for the ore.
I gotta say,
Post the change,
sounds like the same SRC.
Post-change, they all stopped doing that because none of them had any access to peasant labor to get the gas, to get the PI, to get any of that stuff.
Well, post-change, nobody is really building caps in any skill at all, even if you do have access to those.
they don't even try and like find builders. What Snuffed Out does is they just go buy dreads off contract from wherever in low sec. And so they're just buying up old stockpiles. Eventually those stockpiles run out and they're not going to start building them. It's just not going to happen.
But somebody's paying for that peasant labor. Like we've been talking about how we need for like new players or other niche like that, and that's exactly what this is. If something's too much bullshit for you to do, then guess what? You're going to pay somebody else to do it. That's perfect.
Give it to a new player.
Who knows? Maybe Snuffed Out is going to harbor their own group of people that can do that for them in lowsec.
Also, Snuff are like some of the biggest resource extractors in this game. Like I don't know what we're talking about here. Like they mine a lot. They capitalize on pretty much any resource extraction that can be done in lowsec.
They capitalize on the resource extractions that are worth a lot of money because, like many groups of their scale, the people who are doing PvE are only doing it because they need ISK.
Sure.
They do not enjoy it. They're
but that
just
value
doing it for a lot of money, and so they do the thing that makes them the most amount of money, and then sell it off.
Sure, and then they take that money and they use it to buy the other pieces of what they need, which pays the peasants.
Or just buy capital.
Which was purchased by stuff that then paid the peasants.
Yep.
Like, that's my point. Like, it isn't that you have to do that, but somebody does.
Right. And who is going to be my consistent capital source? If I'm a random small group?
I don't know. That's up to you to figure out.
And pay what they're actually worth now.
Like, that's the whole point. Like, yes, you have to source it. You have to maybe if you could find a regular source for it, somebody that would like to do it for you, then great.
Gabriel, did you have something you were going to say?
Yeah, for what it's worth, I know that before the changes, RC used to build capitals in lowsec, and they also, I'm not sure if the situation to an extent is comparable to Snuff, but there's also a couple of stations that are asset safety that routinely have discounted caps and all sorts of shit in there. So that's also a source of capitals for lowsec alliances.
Like, the problem is, right, is if you look at potential sources for capitals, your answer is being a null block. They're the only groups that have the vast fields of peasant labor and internal markets to actually get you capitals.
The real
if
problem,
I try and find like a 10-man, or 20-man, peasant industrial group out in lowsec, they're not going to be able to get me enough of what I need.
The real problem is that capital core temperature regulators cost $3.5 billion to make, and no one's willing to pay $4.5 billion for a dread. That's the problem when it comes to stockpiles versus production at the moment. That being said, there are two significant hits to that fact coming in this change. One, as we've mentioned, the halving of the PI material, which is roughly 10% of its value, and also the doubling of our 4 moon mineral, the fact that you can theoretically compress it, and the fact that ice and stuff can also be moved, which will help with fuel, will help with reactions, which will help with providing the things that have been a bottleneck to the production of those very core temperature regulators. So chances are, the value, the cost of those things will go down, which will make battleships more reasonable to build, and capitals will be able to be built within a efficiently enough to be able to be sold for a profit. Like,
I'm trying to see what I actually paid for my nag in lowsec. I don't remember.
I guess a simple math equation. When the capital core temperature regulator costs $3 billion, it makes dreads cost too much. It's just that simple.
Yeah, the question about where to source in capitals from right now is essentially the question is who's actually building capitals, and the answer is right now nobody is. After the changes, possibly it will certainly be a little bit cheaper.
Why does everyone say no one's building capitals? Okay, I've been building them now for 5 or 6 months.
Building to sell, I think, is the...
Oh, yeah, fuck that. You make your own shit.
Here's the key thing. If you need it, you're going to get it, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, people are still building it regardless of whether or not it's profitable if they need it.
That like
That's true.
capitals are important to a lot of small and mid-scale play, and there's only so much money that people make. And so if a dread's gonna cost me 7 bill, like I can have a lot of people in my alliance who just straight up can't afford that. And so yeah, we might need capitals to be able to reasonably do what we want. But if nobody can afford them, then that's a problem.
That's relative, right? Because I'd still shelf out 7 bill. I need a dread. Need a dread.
The problem is it's not just you though, right? Like a dread bomb
It's just
doesn't
a
work if it's one person.
Right, it's
You
a different
need your
perspective.
15 to 20 people who only have so many hours in a day to crab or do whatever, and are not going to drop $120 in Plex or whatever the hell when they want a dread.
No, but it does speak to what Astrossi says, right? I mean, if somebody needs an egg, they're going to build an egg, even if it's too expensive, because
No, they're not. If it's too expensive, they're not going to do it. They're just going to give up.
Some are not, some will. It depends on the definition of a need, right? Like,
I mean,
if you truly need it, and
would.
then if you need a dread, otherwise you cannot proceed. This isn't need to in order to run rogue drone sites or something like that. This is like if you cannot continue as a fort, if you lost your dread cache and you have more fights to happen, you got to replace those dreads. It's not a matter of you either succeed to do so or you get failed out.
Then can't go to the next fight and you quit because you don't like.
I mean, that's been the problem since like the.
Well, I hate to tell you this. There's still been plenty of dread losses. Look on the thing. They've still been dread bombing people and stuff. People, if there's an opportunity there, they're going to use them.
If you lose your dread cache and you're unwilling, if you lose your dread cache and you're unwilling or unable to replace it, then guess what? You've lost. Yeah. Okay, great. And if you give up, then you gave up because you lost. Like some people, it happens. And I'm just saying, like, my point is that no one is building up dread caches right now for funsies. You're right. Like nobody's throwing away their fuck you money for this. But if you need these ships, if there are wars happening,
wasn't the entire point to make these ships valuable again? So doesn't people not struggling to replace them?
But there's a difference between like 1 bill for a dread hull is too little, and 6 bill for a dread hull is too much. Like a lot of people were pretty happy when they were like 3.5. That was a point where like you could reasonably replace it, but you did actually feel it when it exploded. And
when it's 6 bill.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with your logic. What I'm saying is that I think that the point is that capitals shouldn't be built right now for profit. They should only be built for need because they're trying to still burn through cash. Now, how fast or how much that shifts away from that back towards production, we'll have to see.
Well, there's different facets to the game. Money is one, time is another, convenience is still a third. All kinds of different reasons to do different things. It depends on, again, your gameplay and what a need is. All that stuff is correct. You guys are thinking. So the absolutes of nobody's doing this or everybody's doing that, I caution in EVE Online aren't always true.
And they just put the crab beacon in the game. They just put the new whatever exploratory thing, although I don't think that's a huge moneymaker. But the beacon, you can make decent money off of that. So there's new ways to make IST, so you can afford the new whatever dread or whatever you need to buy.
Well, the exploration sites are not profitable. It's not about their profitability in and of themselves, but they are providing another valve for those very things that were making things expensive.
What they dropped cost 200,000 ISK.
It's the enhanced neural blah blah blah. And literally, the low-sec variant of that exploration site that just got added. It takes you about 15 to 20 minutes to cloaky run in a CovOps. You get one enhanced neural blah 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 signaler thingy. That same item is literally in a Sonja cover site that's in low-sec that you can cargo scan and run in 10 seconds. I don't understand how that site's going to maintain any kind of value unless something's added.
The point is not to make that. The point is to destroy its value because it was too valuable, because it was too rare and a choke point.
What?
within the overall production. These
That's,
things are
that enhanced neural sensor was
He
essential.
just explained how the site takes so long that it isn't worth running.
What
and
he
if
meant
it's
is the
not
new
worth
site
running,
is worth.
Hang on, Barry, hang on.
Oh.
It increased the supply.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Hello?
I thought you were arguing the opposite direction.
All right, let's go.
The old argument is 10 seconds.
The argument would be if you would make the new site viable with the same items, relatively it'd have to drop like 10 of them, right? Because you spent a half an hour running the damn thing.
Can we also remember that we have the two of the lower end of the sites and the better site? The better stuff is still coming.
All right, just another minute or
curious if
two.
there's
If you
more to
guys
it.
have some last questions or comments for at least the live audience, then we'll go to just having the Discord up. But we'll turn off the stream and wrap up the entire session.
I am very interested to know the reasoning of the removal of gas bonuses from the venture, and therefore kind of a direct nerf towards alphas being able to take on more dangerous activities in order to push their resource extraction. I don't see why they would have to lose that bonus.
Me either. Now, it may not be.
Wait a minute.
I'm going to lobby to get it back. It may not be the full thing back. It may only be a portion. I don't know why it was removed. I'm not a fan of it being removed. And unless I can get a really good explanation of why, I'm going to continue to push for it. Now, I'm CSM. I'm not CCP Sykes, colleague. So, yep, there you go.
Kenneth, did you get an answer about the mining frigate bonus to the Covetor?
No, I didn't, because I think a lot of those people went to bed. But I would be. Hold on. Let me look at something real quick. And
That is almost
idea.
definitely just the cells being shifted to the right.
Yeah.
That's what we assume it is.
It is so illogical for there to, because for it to be true and correct the way it is right now, then you're arguing that the venture gets no bonuses for mining frigate, but yet the Covetor does get mining frigate bonuses.
Frigate bonus.
Unacceptable. That the column is shifted by one.
Yeah, and the endurance, all the stuff we have on our notes, the endurance is the one.
All right. So for everybody that's listening still out there, it's like nearly 300 people watching live. We have, I don't know how many in here, like 20. And if you want to join us on Talking in Stations and have more discussion, we're open 24/7. Go ahead and type in ! Discord in chat, and you will see the invitation to this Discord. When you get to TIS Discord, we don't let just anybody in. You can't be a robot. So you have to type in -not-a-bot, all one word, and then you will see the open site. And so we've been talking today about the further industrial changes. These look like harvesting changes, changes to mining ships and boosting ships for those, command ships for industrial, all that kind of stuff, and what massive repercussions they're going to have. I won't review everything that we've talked about, but some of the advice that we have for you guys is to, was it to refine everything now, or was it to compress everything now?
Compress.
You want to compressing. So if you compress ore today, it'll be worth 10% more than if you compressed the same ore after this event.
It'll be worth 2%, 2.5%.
4%.
Depending on how you do it.
Or 99.
Whatever.
but it'll be instant.
Don Ria's here, somebody who uses Rorkels.
Oh, I had heard already.
Last I heard, you didn't like this. Is that still the case, or?
Upon review, I feel like this is superfluous and extra. There are some changes that are good, and some hobo leaks just came out that are good. I'm excited about a hobo leak. It'll complement the change. But basically, they're giving you a bonus, but only if you mine the way they want you to.
What do you mean?
Well, you have to, if you want to get so they're doubling the moon ore, right? So 200%. So a moon frac is now, instead of 100 units, it's 200 units. But the only way to get that value of as close as possible to 200 units is if you use an exhumer.
But basically, they're giving you a bonus,
Who is that? Can you cut him?
Jenny.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only way to get that bonus, if you want to get as close as possible to that 200 bonus, or the extra ore, is mining an exhumer with an ore mining laser. If you use anything else, you are wasting your time because you're destroying a good portion of whatever bonus you got. Now, if you mine with the Rorkel, with the excavators, it destroys every bit of bonus on that moon, and you just mine slower. So you have to mine the way that they want you to, or else it's a complete waste of time.
A T2 laser still puts you at a 66% increase overall in the number of ore, or the amount of ore you extract from the moon.
Correct. If you use a T2 laser, it will be better than if you did the way you're doing it now. So it's still better, but the best is with a faction mining thing. Even though excavator drones and augmented drones are faction, but they apparently don't get to count.
Well, yeah, because otherwise people just keep doing giant piles of orcs.
Yes.
Which is your style of mining. That's
exactly. I don't see the problem with this at all, but here we are. So now what you're going to see is just 5 oracles in a belt sitting there with their little barges around them. And when a baddie comes in, the barges will either warp off or just dock up in the oracle, and you won't kill them, and it'll be just like it is today, except for less people on grid. I got a call.
Right. All right. So that's Donria. I think she runs Goon Swarms. What is it called?
Theta Squad.
Theta Squad.
Locust.
And Locust. I think she plays a part in both, but definitely Theta Squad, which is their defense to defend their miners when people come to mess with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the Locust fleets, I think, are run by FCs because you have to have. Well, I'm not sure. Actually, could be her too. We'll ask her when she comes back.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be more exhumers in the belts and the moon mining for sure.
Yeah. The last thing I want to say is we went through a period of abundance. We talked about that before the show. It was about 4, maybe 5 years of Rorkels out there mining mining a lot more than exhumers and that whole period. And then we went to the starvation era that's lasted a year and a half. And they said, hey, the starvation era is coming to an end. We'll be back to more balance for mining in nullsec specifically. If you were someone like Don who liked mining or wanted to mine in Rorkels, in nullsec space, protected space that you'd conquered, do you feel like this brings you back to zero, back to the abundance era?
No, it's a bit worse than the abundance.
Well, here's the thing. You don't want to get back to the abundance era, right? Because then you're a sine wave. So we went to abundance, and now we went all the way down to scarcity, go all the way back to abundance again. You want to be getting near zero, right? So you don't want to overshoot the line by very much. You want to maintain that zero pretty close. So you were at the low point, and as you turn the low point to come back up, you don't go to overshoot the zero. You go to get close to zero. If you overshoot a little bit, then you can correct. But the idea is to go back to the zero line, not back to Rorkel's online of 2018, right, where we end up in that place again, and then you have to do another scarcity and go the other way.
So in the military, when you're doing call for fire, there's a technique called bracketing, okay, where you try your first shot, see where it goes, and if it's further than your target, then you drop it by a certain amount, whatever you think will make it, right? So I'll say drop 200, and then right or left, right? And then it fires again, and it's going to be way closer than the guy. And so then I go, forward 100, right? Each time I bracket, I cut the number in half, because the idea is that like if I fire it, then drop it by 200, and that's still not enough, then I'm going to drop it by another 200 until I get past it to being too close, and then I'm going to work my way back up, going half the distance. That way I walk my way into the exact dead-on spot. So this isn't about getting back up to scarcity. This is about getting back into the healthy range, which is, it was past the healthy range before.
But there were people who were saying, you know, this scarcity has got to end. And I wonder if they feel like this is a good change, if this is a satisfying end to scarcity for them.
I'm going to say no.
Are you actually asking
joined
evil
the
line
hood, this is
players
a
to be
good change.
satisfied about something?
Okay, so Sandrock says what?
So it's an issue. So when scarcity hit, a lot of corps had lost people, and then you spent a lot of time trying to keep the few people that you could, and now you kept your hopes. It's like, hey, it's going to end. It's going to end. Hey, it's ending. You just got to stay longer, and now it's here, and everyone's like, so now I have to get one Pacific ship, one Pacific module. Everything else won't work. Why am I still here? And now it's starting all over, and now you got to try to get them to not quit. All right, maybe they'll change it again. Hold on. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit.
So not super satisfying. You see this as having to adapt to a different thing.
Well, it's removing the choice. It's a sandbox. So now you only have one option to get to perfect. And everything else is not useful.
Because, like, before your one option was a bunch of Rorkel, right?
Well, you could mix it with...
And now your option's a bunch of Exhumers.
No. There was
you still need a Rorkel.
There's a difference here. Before, if you had a barge, you still could mine a ton of stuff and you didn't lose anything. You weren't actively harming anybody else's gameplay. You just made a certain amount per hour. Now that you have an ability with the types of lasers and the mechanics, you actually have a way to fuck over somebody else. You can fuck over your court mates' mining abilities because maybe you're the newbie and you've got like maybe skill level 3 in a ship, and everybody else in the corp who's been here longer is level 5. They may tell you you can't mine with us yet because you will just dispel. And now this is a negative towards integrating people in until they have the skill levels to reach what everybody else has already. So now you've got who are going to be screwing people over somewhere up in high sec. And yeah, it's an encouragement to get your skills higher, but now it's going to be a requirement if you want to even...
That is a good
yes and no. I could see that on R64s, R32s, but on regular ore that's going to be an anomaly that respawns or in a belt that respawns, you're not going to stop someone from mining there if they have 100%. And if you do that, the max waste from T1 lasers is 100%. You've got to say the same thing to all the Rorkel pilots because excavators have the same wastage as T1 strips.
I think that argument is fair in terms of the T1 mining lasers and strip miners being 100%, and that probably is a little bit odd.
I actually find this very interesting because, and I'm glad that you pointed this out, because we have talked about like this waste thing. There was some confusion about the waste being like a burden on the person. It's obviously not. But this is almost like a tragedy of the commons kind of situation, right? Where the burden of my poor skills is actually on the collective, not on me. My mining is fine. I'm just burning more of the collective's like resources. So it is going to, it actually reminds me a lot of like the Abyss and whether or not you go after extractors. You can either go with like a pure ISK per hour mentality, or you go with I want to maximize how many resources that I have, right? If every every unit of ore that you can extract from these rocks is important, because you don't just, like getting the rocks themselves is the hard part, then that makes it so that every efficiency is important. But yeah, if the rocks are ubiquitous, then who gives a fuck how much you burn?
Yeah, so whatever you say about the newbie with the T1 miner, you have to apply to the Rorkel evenly because they both have the same wastage.
Well, yeah, no one's going to use excavators ever again. Like, you can...
Why not?
Because it may take longer, but you don't lose as much.
But this is the thing. It's selfishness versus the collective, right? Like the Rorkel pilot doesn't give a crap how much of the ore gets burned. They're still extracting faster. They're just willing to burn more of the ore to do so.
I think you underestimate how greedy some Rorkel pilots are, in that so during blackout, I stayed out mining it with T2 miners the entire time, when most Rorquals did, just because of the danger and everything. But I was like, I'm still making money and you guys aren't making anything. And I would rather take longer to get more.
See, I imagine that the greediness would make the Rorkel pilot use excavators and dam the ore that gets burned.
So if you're talking about R64s, then the Rorkel pilot puts you back to where you were before, right? You're just there. If you are talking about ore that's replenished, it just doesn't matter.
All right. Well, listen, we're gonna wrap up. Ash, last comments.
Yeah, I got one last thing to throw in there because this hasn't been brought up, and it is on HoboLeaks. It wasn't talked about in the dev blog, but there is a very interesting thing added on HoboLeaks, which is a industrial jump portal generator that has a sinusoidal harmonics of 10, which means it should only be able to jump to like some of the hardest certain sinos. But this implies that something is going to get the ability to create jump bridges for industrial ships.
Ooh. We'll have to see what happens there. All right. Well, Kenneth, thanks again. And Caleb, you arrived at the last second. We're about to wrap up. Where were you?
Oh, I was not suppressed. I was just free to talk. I was hanging with the drunk people.
At this hour? It's morning over here.
Oh yeah, they've started early because of the dev blog.
What are your thoughts on it, Caleb, before we go?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of very interesting ideas and concepts, but implementation looks terrible. It's going to anger a lot of people, and I definitely do not like the tragedy of the commons, as Ash just called it. It seems like they put the wastage in the wrong place. I feel like this is a lot of the upside down seas that the CCP tends to do. I would have liked to see something more on actual structures in regards of things like actual time sinks and meaningful waste, where you sacrifice time for waste, right? And waste that maybe did something detrimental to the station in its efficiency and something like its fuel consumption.
To the environment.
Going back to the old idea of plutonium, if you remember, all the way back there. Where that was supposed to be a waste product that you really wanted to get rid of, and you could only get rid of it in certain areas that would then be, garbage dumps, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Things like that is more akin to what I would have liked
Pollute
to see.
the neighbor's yard.
So it's interesting that you bring that up, because it is worth noting that with all of these other things, there was a series of like outfits that were put in that were explicitly about radiation, talking about doing that kind of secondary extraction, to the point when I was looking at it, I was kind of predicting that there would be some sort of like waste, but I assumed it'd be a slag like situation. So there is like new things being added in that hints in that direction, but I don't know.
So you can have a profession of somebody that cleans up radiation in some area.
Cleans up? What are you talking about?
Awesome.
That sounds perfect. If that happens, show me all your waste, man. I know just where to put it.
I'll take your radioactive waste.
And one
Give
of
it
the
all to
things that I pointed out when it comes to the whole destructive asteroid mining, I would actually have liked them to take a page from the original asteroid game, and instead of just making it go poof, you make big roids into small roids if you mine them like that destructively, right? So it becomes a field of microroids instead. So you're not really destroying them, but you're really putting in a horrible time sink in the face of your opponent, right?
You can do that.
I think that the missing piece here
you could
is
or couldn't do that. Kenneth?
No, you can with the C-type crystals. Scan it first, know where you are, time your cycle, and you can leave a bunch of rocks with like 5 each in the rock.
I'm talking about destroying a big roid and making it into 2 medium roids, and making a medium roid into 2 small roids, and making a small roid into a micro roid. So you basically take a field that is nice and easy to target and harvest, and make it into this horrible fucking field full of micro roids with hardly anything in it. That would have been fun.
You can do it.
Other ships.
You can do it, but you have to be. Let's just make this clear. You can do it by using Type C. What is it? Type C laser upgrade. I think.
Crystal. Oh no,
Crystal.
He's saying that with the mining lasers, you can leave behind rocks. But what Caleb is saying is that like generate new rocks. Yes. So you have one big rock and you actually split it up. So now it's 10 small rocks.
Okay. Exactly. So what you can do is just take one rock and leave one micro rock instead of 10 micro rocks.
Right.
But the concept is still there.
I think that the concern there would be like you'd be able to send one drone to each
actively create more roids instead of just roids with less things in it. I'm not talking about the content. I'm talking about an active destruction where you basically pepper the field with microroids instead.
Caleb is describing. He's describing changing the value with changing the time without changing the value.
Right.
He's like, we're not trying to take the value away. You still get the same amount of rock out of it as before, but now it's annoying to get.
Yes,
this does remind me.
I'm creating a time sink for my opponent instead of destroying it, because also that would maybe make it, I don't know, fun and reminiscent of the original Asteroid game where you basically pop bigger roids into smaller roids.
Well, I like the layering of jobs, right? You have guys coming in with big ships, take care of the big rocks. They don't bother with the little ones, but you have little guys in smaller ships, frigate-sized ships, that go around doing that. And you can actually have layering of jobs rather than one person, one entire industry. And I like
that's actually the piece that I think
is pointed out. The main problem with this kind of aggressive mining is that no one sees it and no one can tell who did it. Right? It basically is just the inefficiency of someone creating that tragedy of the common the term that Ash talks about, but no one can see it.
Didn't Paradox say it would be in the ledger?
Yeah, but the ledger is not available for everyone, only for moon mining, right?
He wants you to know that you've been in there and you've screwed them over. He wants you to sit there and just know that not only is this entire belt hyper fucked, but he's the one that did it. That's what he's asking.
Exactly, because if it's supposed to be aggressive and I'm supposed to be able to burn my neighbor's field, I want him to see me throwing the torch.
It'll be in the ledger.
Yeah.
Look, Caleb, just go do exploration, cherry pick exploration sites, and leave behind a can with your name on it, and it's fine.
Please don't.
I have a question.
I'd like to see the lasers have different colors for that. I don't know that that'll
waste. So you waste, like if you mine a rock, you waste some rock. That's it. I understand correctly?
Yeah.
So
is there also a way to mine it and waste everything?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, you can do that.
Type C crystals have a wastage factor of 18, so it wastes 18 times more than what you mine.
Yeah, but is that 100% of what you mine? Can I just fill out a miner?
No, it's 1800%.
Hold up. You always mine your amount. It's how much is destroyed within that rock beyond what you have mined is the waste.
Yep. But I'm asking if it's possible for me to sacrifice more of what I mine.
Yeah. Okay, listen to me.
You can right-click destroy it once you find it.
Time.
Let Kenneth say it.
Use a Type C crystal. Whatever you get in your cargo hold, 18 times more than that gets removed from the rock.
Oh, that sounds great.
You can always right-click or you can always destroy the rocks that you mine.
In other words, you're wasting it faster than anyone could possibly. You're just wasting it away faster. So it's basically a waste.
You could just sit on someone's house and just waste their money.
Waste goes away first. So if you're mining, the waste comes off before what goes in your cargo hold. So if you're mining something with 100% waste of a waste multiplier of 1, and there's 850 left, and you mine 500 goes away, 350 goes in your cargo hold. If there's 475 left and you're mining 500, then the 500 waste goes away and 0 goes in your cargo hold.
Yeah.
Is there going to be like a code organization? Do have swarms of ventures? They're going
Right?
to
That's what I'm thinking. Just wreck everybody's work.
Well, earlier in the show, when we were talking with Kenneth, we were saying how you can sneak into, you know, if you have a spy, you can actually join the mining fleets and waste material as opposed to get material. You can, of course, it'll be in the ledger, so they'll discover you at a certain point. But you can, not only can you go and deplete other people's fields, but you can sneak into their fleets and do that. And I don't know if they can see that real time. Are the ledgers real time, or do they take a while to...
No, they're real time.
They're real time, but like not very many people are actively watching.
New job.
That.
And it would have to be the owning corp of the Athenor.
It's actual industrial sabotage. That's great.
Exactly. And that is something that Hilmar had wanted to get into. In addition to this subterfuge, which you can do, he wanted to get into going and leaving radioactive waste in other people's regions that they had to deal with. So you could really bully your neighbors and use their resources and pollute their land while yours stayed pristine. And that was another way of...
It's not really
content.
just Hilmer's idea. It's a very, very old concept from inception, right? The whole thing of pollution and radioactive goods and...
Yeah, sure, okay, it was God's idea, but Hilmar said it on one of our shows long ago.
I think he wanted it back, right? Because it never, it was never created. It was
God
never
said he wanted his idea
implemented.
back.
This does bring up an interesting point, though, which is that like the piece that I feel has been missing in mining, this doesn't really address it, which is the idea of prospecting, right? Like there should be a process in which you're picking through if you pick through a rock, if you take time to analyze the rock, then you can mine it without as much waste, not just having more efficient equipment, you know, because like when you're actually doing real resource extraction, you spend a lot of your time scanning things in order to find the correct resources, but yet in Eve you don't. It's just raw throughput.
Yeah, we got a hard enough time with the code that we got. Let's not complicate it that, okay?
Right. All right.
Fair enough.
All right. We got to wrap up. So I got to go. And it's really nice to see all you guys inside the chat here. Ravendell, thanks for hanging out with us. Kenneth, thank you so much for explaining a lot of this stuff. Ash, Fawn, Sui, Don, Caleb, all you guys, thanks very much. Murray. And all you guys there in chat, thanks for sticking with us. We will see you later on today when we have more on this. When we gather our thoughts, you'll see the afternoon show with more on this. And then you'll see on Sunday, we'll have a full breakdown of what's going on here. It's good to see you. We will see you next time on Compression in Stations. Oh, I meant Talking in Stations.